All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome back for take two. We're going to try this one more time. So, if you tried to watch my earlier stream on Adobe Live and my own channels, it failed miserably. There was all kinds of buffering issues and just it was a bad experience. So, apologize for that. It wasn't really anything I did on purpose. Like, I'm still using the same setup I use every week. But I think there was some kind of backup or something running in the background, so I turned off that, and let's see if this goes better. Also, I'm recording it, so if worst case scenario, if the stream doesn't work, the recording will, and then I can just post the video after the fact. So something I should probably start doing on a regular basis. Hey, Kevin Stewart, how's it going? All right, so with that said, we're going to dive in, and because this isn't a timed slot like it is on Adobe Live where I have to stick to an hour and do an hour no matter what. If it runs shorter than an hour, great. You need more time back in your day. If it runs a little bit over, which I doubt it, great. You get to see more content. So with that said, thanks for watching. Again, thanks for hanging in there with me and coming back. And good evening in Zanzibar. And it's 7:21 p.m. your time. Great. And glad you guys are here. All right, so let's go ahead and dive right into what I was trying to show earlier. And again, for the people that weren't watching earlier, you don't know or care. So let's dive into the new features, which is what this is all about. The new features in Photoshop and Lightroom Classic for photographers that were introduced a week and a half ago over at Adobe MAX in LA. So for those of you who are joining me for the first time, I do this every week when I'm not traveling. So I do this every week at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, and it's streamed multicast to Adobe Live, which is b.net. Here, I'll show you this so you guys have that URL. It's normally at b.net/Adobe Live. That crashed and burned earlier today. And it's also on my channels that you're watching now. So if you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, awesome. Thanks for joining me on my channel. And let's go ahead and I'm going to take a sip of water so I can not be coughing. Let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, so let's get rid of the banner. And let's go ahead and go to my desktop. We'll start with Photoshop. A few new things in Photoshop for photographers, or anyone for that matter. And then we'll get into the Lightroom stuff, some of which I covered on my own YouTube channel earlier and Facebook as well. But we'll just put it all together today so you can have a nice package to watch. All right, so with that said, I'm going to start off in Photoshop. I've got a few images open so I can show you these features. The first one is around making selections with the object selection tool. So the object selection tool, which was introduced, I want to say 2 to 3 years ago now. That was when it first came out. Then a year later, it got the ability to auto-detect images. I rolled that out at one of the Max keynotes. And now this year, it can do more. So it can do more auto-detecting. So basically, this tool is on its third rev. All right, so with that said, what's it for? So basically, when you click the object selection tool, you'll notice you might see a little spinning icon here to refresh the object finder. That means it's looking for objects in your scene that it can just select with one click, which is great. So for example, what's new and improved this version, so same tool, but now it auto detects water better, skies better, natural ground, plants, and architecture. So those are the kinds of things they train the AI to do a better job with. And so, great, we get a better object selection tool. Now, I've got it selected. It's already detected the objects in this image. Let me hover over those objects to demonstrate. So if I hover over the sky now, you can see it. Hey, it's outlining the sky. If I were to click, it would get the sky. It's going to get part of his hat because his hat has holes in it. So it's trying to do a good job of selecting through the hat into the sky. If I hover over this bird, it gets the bird. If I hover over him, it gets him. If I hover over the lamp, it gets the lamp. Hover over the boat he's on, it gets the boat. Gets the shrubbery or trees or what, I can't tell how far that is away, so probably trees. And the water. So it's doing what it's supposed to do. And again, if I wanted to select any one of these things, like the bird, I just click, and it's done that selection. So you can select any object just by clicking it. If you want to add more objects, you would hold down the shift key. So if I want the basket too, now the basket's selected. If I want the water, Now the water selected. So it's doing those things just by me holding down the shift key and adding them to my selection. So that's what the new improved object selection does. You can deselect with Command D or Control D on Windows. And again, if I select the sky, it's getting the sky and little holes in his hat as well, trying to select the sky. So if you did something to the sky, it would do it in the hat, which it should do as well. So better object selection. And by the way, if it misses something, for example, I see that even though I selected the sky, it's selecting part of this lamp. Anytime any selection, any automated selection doesn't do a good job, like in this case, it got too much and as opposed to not enough, then you can always add or subtract. So if it got too much, I would hold down the Option key and subtract this out. Say, no, 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 don't select the lamp, just select the sky. If it got anything else, like this little mountain over here, no problem. Hold down the Option key and subtract that out. So you can, or no, actually I should, that's actually right. No, that's right. It's the sky, not the mountain. So I did it right. I was trying to add it back in when it shouldn't be. So great, it's doing what it's supposed to do. And you can always shift to add, Option or Alt to subtract with any selection tool. The object selection tool, lasso, whatever you want to do that with. All right, so that's the new and improved object selections. Let's go on to the next one where we're going to add to that tool with another new capability. So if you combine these two things, it's called one-click delete and fill. Maybe not one click, maybe two, but anyway, it is one click with the mouse and then a keyboard shortcut. So I guess technically it is one click. But anyway, the one-click delete and fill is brand new. And it uses the content-aware fill technology we've had for a few years now. And let me show you what I mean by this. If you use your object selection tool to make the selection, this is the only way it works. Can't use the lasso. You can make the selection, but you have to be on this tool once the selection is made, whether you made the selection with the tool or not. So I like the horses. I even don't mind the horses off to the side. I don't want the horse in the middle. So I want to get rid of that horse, just from the photo, obviously. So if I were to hover over that horse and click, it selects it. Great. Now to get rid of it, you would have maybe in the past just hit delete, brings up the panel for content aware fill, and make any adjustments, click OK. But now there's some new technology with one-click delete and fill to where you just hold down your shift on your keyboard and delete on Mac and shift backspace on Windows. And what it's doing is it's using the object selection tool to make the selection. And normally I would never make a selection that tight if I wanted to use content aware fill, because content aware fill has traditionally preferred having a little space around the object so that it does a better job filling it in. Usually if you select right on the edge, you see some of the edge left over. Well, the one-click delete and fill has some magic in it where it sees that it's tight and behind the scenes expands it a little bit when it's doing the delete. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. Just select the object, hold down the shift key, hit delete, and it does it. That's it. It's great. If it's not great, again, I see a little piece left over right here. I'll select it again with that tool, shift delete, done. So getting rid of things in your photos will be that much easier and faster now. With object selection to select it, even if you have to use the lasso or whatever to make it, as long as you use the object selection tool, is select it when you hit shift delete. Okay, next up. Go to the next photo. I'm going to put it to the test. Now, if you've been watching me for over the years, I've used this photo to show how to delete or get rid of distractions for years. I've used, because this photo has a classic distraction. The light stand, the backpack, which is used as a sandbag to hold it down. It's just, that's not the photo. Her sitting on that rock is the photo. So to get rid of this in the past, I've done the selection with the lasso, I've done content aware fill, I've done patch tool, I've done healing brush. Now we're going to use the new method because I have all those other methods that I've done in the past to compare it with. So let's go ahead, and I notice it's detecting pieces of it. So click that selects the softbox. The pole here, shift click, that selects the pole. Backpack, shift click, that selects the backpack. But this one little leg sticking out isn't being detected. So does that mean I'm stuck? Nope, just do it manually. Hold down the shift key and drag around that one little thing that didn't get selected, and it will add it to the selection, just like that. Great, now that that's all been selected, and I'm still on the object selection tool, and I'm on the background, so you see there's no layers in my layers panel, there's nothing under my sleeves, shift delete. And it's gotten rid of that better than any other method I've ever done in the past. Like normally I have a little bit to clean up, and you can see where maybe I might have left a little edge around the soft, whatever. This is the best and fastest I've ever gotten rid of that. And you know, I could argue that maybe this is part of the pole and I need to get rid of that one little piece, but for the most part, you could look at this and say that was never there. And so it's amazing how far this technology has come with AI. All right, next up is this. An old photo, classic old photo, an old print that was photographed, and so it became digital. And of course, it's photographing it as is with all the scratches and folds and tears and so forth and so on. Now, photo restoration is a very manual intensive process that can take hours, days, weeks, months, depending on how bad the image is. I've seen people restore things that were half the face is gone, and they have to use the other half of the face to kind of flip it over and blend it in and make it look good. Or the whole face is gone. They have to use, you know, memory, other photos, whatever. I don't know how to do it. Hold on, David's asking a question. When you delete a selection, are there any unwanted artifacts left behind? Can you zoom in after the demonstration shows? Okay, I'll go back to that photo since there was a question. Let me go to my zoom tool. And no, David, there are no artifacts left over. That's where the softbox was. It's gone. That's where the pole was. It's gone. So usually, no, there are no artifacts left over. Hopefully that answers David's question and anyone else that had that. He didn't zoom in. He cheated. Nope, I zoomed in. You saw it. Okay, next up. So back to this. Manual process, using the tools to remove all the scratches, so forth and so on. So a couple years back, we introduced neural filters. And in some cases, the neural filters are simply designed to give you a head start. So let's say, just ballpark, let's say this restoration would take an hour. Well, what if it could only take 30 minutes? What if it could only take 15 minutes manually? Because the AI got you started in a better place. That's what this next neural filter is all about. It's not about doing it perfectly. It's about giving you a better head start. So if I go to my filter menu, come down to neural filters, there's a new beta called photo restoration. And photo restoration will either do, in my experience, one of three things. It'll do a really good job. It'll do an okay job. Or it'll barely do anything at all. Like I've clicked it in some cases and can't even tell a difference. Barely a difference. But what I haven't seen it do is make me undo it, meaning that it did something bad and I had to undo it because it messed up the photo. So technically, if that's the case, if it's either going to do from anywhere from not much to a lot, there's no harm in using it, right? Also, it outputs to a new layer. So worst case scenario, you miss something and it's still on a layer, you can get rid of it. All right, now that I've set it all up for you, and I told you I kind of set the expectations that it's not a night and day. Let me show you how it works. I'm going to click on Photo Restoration, and there's a slider down here. I haven't turned it on yet. There's a slider called Scratch Reduction, and for whatever reason, the Photoshop team defaulted that down to 0. And what I'm afraid of is a lot of people are going to try this, and with that being on 0, you aren't going to see much of a difference. So what I always do now is this. I turn it on, and then I immediately, even before it can finish, put that slider all the way up to 100. So then it processes it with that slider already at 100. Now, it may take a few seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, a minute, depending on your machine and how high resolution this photo is. But a minute versus hours or minutes, several minutes is worth it to me. So again, here's the before, here's the after, and maybe that saved me 15, 20 minutes of work. Maybe less. But whatever it did that so I don't have to do it. That's the point. So whatever time it would have taken me to do that, I got back, and now I can work on the stuff that it didn't do. That's what this neural filter is all about. Now let me show you what you would have gotten had you left that on 0. Let's put it back to 0. And now let's see the before and after. That's before, that's after. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of people are going to come in here and they're going to say, didn't do anything. Because scratch reduction, for some reason, is down at 0. Photoshop team, I want to bump that up as a default. All right, I don't know. There's a reason they put it at 0. I don't know what that reason could be. Even if you don't go all the way, even if you just go halfway and just let it finish, it's night and day compared to 0. So again, a few seconds, let it cook, done. So you don't always need it at 100, but I haven't found that 100 hurts anything. So I put it all the way up so it gets everything that it can. And I can always, if it did just, distort something or whatever, maybe it was a line going across his eye and it kind of distorted the eye as it removed it, then I would just pull it back. But I'd rather start at 100 and pull it back if I need to than start at 0 and, oh, can I go a little higher? Can I go a little higher? Can I go, it's easier just to go all the way to 100. If you like it, great, you're done. If not, pull back. Okay, so now let's say I click OK on that. That output as a new layer, I had it set to go as a new layer, so you always have the original to go back to. And I was, in my earlier stream, I kind of closed it and went on to the next thing, and they're like, wait, you didn't show colorize. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Colorize isn't new, because I was concentrating on new things, but yeah, you would absolutely want to try colorize on this. Now, just as a heads up, I'm going to show you what colorize does. But I wouldn't do it yet if I was doing this in real life, because I'm not done. So I finished the editing, finished the manual part. And I've never tried running that neural filter twice to see if it clean up the scratches that it left behind the first time. Maybe we'll do that. But I would clean it up first, fix the edges, crop this old paper background out of it. Like I cropped the 2 photos and then maybe put them on a new background. I would get the photo ready, in other words, before I would do the colorize. Once the photo's ready, once the photo's finished, then I would head back to the neural filters and colorize. But now I'm curious. Let's go back to filters, neural filters. And let's try, I'm just going to, for the sake of, I want to see what would happen. Now, either nothing will happen, or if it starts removing those other scratches, I'm going to be very happy. And then we've learned another lesson that I never thought about trying it more than once to see if the results continue to get better. And it did. Oh my God. There's your bonus tip for the weekend. Run it. Didn't get everything. Make a new layer. Run it again. See if it gets the rest this time. So just running it twice. And I'm kidding, folks. I'm not kidding. I've never tried that twice. And running it twice really gave me a better result the second time. So cool. All right, next up, so let's talk about the colorize. Now, because we left all this other stuff in the background, I was going to try and colorize that too. That's why I said I'd finish it first. But let's go to colorize. And that's what colorize does. It colorizes everything in this case, even though the paper stuff I don't want. But look at that. It's not bad for an AI that colorized the photo. Now, it missed some things, like in his shirt, there's some areas missing. So you can go over here and you can click the focal point. And the thing I wish they would add to this, I wish they would add an eyedropper. And I heard they did, but I heard they were thinking about it. If they did, I can't find it. All right, anyway, I wish there was an eyedropper. Maybe there is, but I don't know where it is if there is one. Set the color, because an eyedropper, then I could just use the color of the blue that it did. Anyway, and I've always had people say, how did it know the shirt was blue? It doesn't. It's guessing. I just picked a color. So it has a way of figuring out from the black and white what color it used to be. So it's always funny when people ask that question because they're like, yeah, you're shocked. How do you know it's a blue shirt? It doesn't. All right, so I'm just clicking the focal point again over here. And what'll start to happen if you're not careful adding too many focal points is that it will start to colorize the background too. So yeah, it's doing okay. And I probably click one down here because I don't care if it colorizes this. And let's do one more. Yeah, not bad. Okay, so again, output to a new layer. Click OK. So now that's the new, so this is where we started. This is where we did the first one, and this is where we did the second one. Because I combined those two features, we only got one layer. But if I'd have done the restoration first, OK, then colorize, then I'd have a layer for each one of those. All right, but that's the new photo restoration. Run it twice if it didn't do a great job the first time. And that's colorize. All right, moving on. Next thing, let's go to File and Open. I'm going to open up a raw file. Now we'll, of course, open up in Camera Raw, like it always does. And I'm going to, I just want to make sure I reset to default. There we go. I'd already made an adjustment on this photo with the first stream. That's why I'm resetting it back to the way it was. Okay, so masking. We're going to see all the new masking stuff in Lightroom, but there's one masking feature in Camera Raw that didn't make it into Lightroom at this time. So when I click on the masking, there's all new stuff up here. And I'm going to go ahead and do an object selection, which again, we'll talk more about that later. But let's go ahead and just simply say, hey, I want her hair, her head. All right. And it does a good job, even though I didn't finish filling that in. So I'm experimenting with not filling it in all the way. And so far, so good. Okay, so now what's new is that we'll get into the object selection is new, but we'll get into all of that. But what's new in Camera Raw that you don't have in Lightroom is that once you make your mask, you can use curves on a mask. So that's for the people that love curves. I'm not a curves person. I think there are easier ways to do this, but if you love curves, you have curves in masking. All right, so we can say done. I'm going to hit cancel. But there you go. So that was the last little thing there. Oh, there's one more thing that can kind of be useful if you're a photographer, because sometimes you might want to share your progress with someone and get feedback. So the new share and for review is here. Now it's not going to work on this image because this image isn't saved to the cloud. Let me go, maybe I'm just looking for something small here so it'll be quick. Let's go to image size. I'm just going to really make this small. It's probably already pretty small, but let's make it even smaller. Yeah, 7 megabytes. I'm just for the sake of example, I'll drop this down. Oh, it's pretty small already. Okay, let's go ahead and just simply save this to the cloud. So save as. Save into Creative Cloud, and we're going to call it, it's already called horses. Great, save. Because in order to use this feature, you have to have it as a cloud document. Now that it's been saved to the cloud, I can click share, and I get two options, invite to edit and share for review. The share for review is the one I was mentioning earlier, where you want feedback. You just want people to be able to look at your image. They don't have to be a Creative Cloud user. They don't have to have Photoshop. They don't even have to know what Photoshop is. All I need is a web browser because you're going to get a link for this image. Invite to edit takes them to a web browser, but it gives them the Photoshop tools and lets them download it to edit it in case you do want to collaborate with someone that you want to be able to edit your image. So let's say I do share for review. The image is a cloud document, so I can now create a link. And once I create a link, that person, I can then share that link with anybody I want, any way that I want, as many people as I want. And yep, skip this, copy the link. Let's bring up a browser window. You know what? Let's go Chrome. And here's Chrome. And paste that link in. So this is what the person would get. I'm not signed in Chrome, so I'm not even signed into my account. And they would get your image, and they would get markup tools. So for example, if they said, hey, maybe they don't like these horses after all. So they could say, hey, these horses are a distraction. Did I spell horses wrong? I sure did. Horses are a distraction. Now, when I hit submit, since I'm not signed in, it's going to say, hey, do you want to continue as a guest or signed in? I'm going to continue as a guest. I'm going to be Bob Smith. All right, so now that I'm Bob Smith, continuing as a guest, I go ahead and mark that up. I can add more things. I say, hey, maybe it's a compliment. This is cool. And then I can give them, emoji. Hey, love this. Great, submit. And I keep submitting. I only have to log in once or tell it who I am once. So that way the person getting this feedback will be able to know who they got it from. All right, so now that feedback's been given, again, all the people that you gave this link to can give feedback. How do you see that feedback? If we head back over to Photoshop and we bring up the comments panel, which popped up over here for some reason. We bring up the comments panel, we see what Bob Smith said. Not only do we see what Bob Smith said, we actually see the markups. So we see the pinpoint. We can click on it. If we don't see it, it'll take us right to it. And you can hide them if they're distracting. So you can hide the notifications so you don't see them or show them. So that way, once you take care of something, you can either reply back to the person. Hang on, I want to hit reply. There we go. I'm going to say nope. They are staying. Just because you made a comment doesn't mean I have to do what you say, right? And let's go ahead and, all right. And also, if you did take care of something, like, for example, they just said this is cool, you can go ahead and say resolved so you don't have that stain as a comment. So that goes in your resolved archive so that they know that this has been resolved. I'm going to submit that last comment. And so that if I had done an @ Bob Smith will get a notification saying that I made that remark. Or actually, he's a guest, so he wouldn't get a notification. But he'd be able to see it if he came back in. All right, so that is the new share for edit and share for review. And that's Photoshop. Now let's head over to Lightroom Classic. All right, here in Lightroom Classic, and I already did videos on this, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because a lot of you have already seen my videos on the new masking. But I do have an update. We'll do it all combined. So first of all, what's new? The new AI-based people masking. So if I go into the develop module on this image, and I then come down and I say that I want to do masking, and I then say that I want to, oh, hang on, someone's already got a mask. Hold on, reset. There we go. I come down and say I want to do masking. It detects all the people in the scene. So there's only one person. So we see person 1. If there were 2 people, we see person 1 and 2, so forth and so on. So when I click on person 1, what's also new, because that was the same as select subject, but what's new here is it detects their face skin, their body skin. And the body skin would be any skin that's not the face that's showing. Arms, legs, feet, whatever. Hands, whatever. Eyebrows. So her eyebrows are being masked if I choose that. Eye sclera, which I didn't know that was the whites of your eyes. Iris and pupil. Lips and hair. Now, when I did this video before, I did hair, and we're going to do hair again. But I didn't show really that you can combine. You can do multiple masks. You can say, hey, I want the hair and the lips. And because right now they're both kind of red, I want to change them to kind of green. I can either select them as one mask, or I can have them create 2 separate masks. So now I have to keep coming back here doing them one at a time. So now we'll go ahead and create both those masks. So this first one is hair. The second one is lips. So we know which one's which. We can't see the little icon. So great, the hair selected, and then I can come down to local hue, for example, and adjust the color of the hair. So I can get it kind of the green that I want, drop the exposure down, and make it a little darker. And again, AI-based masking for the hair. So go to the lips mask, do the same thing. It's going to be a super bright green because her lips are bright. And we don't want it to be that bright, so we're just going to lower the opacity exposure down to make the lips nice and dark green. Still too strong. I wouldn't choose green. I'm not a makeup artist, so don't beat me up. But we're just playing with the color in the background. But you don't have to change person's lips at all. All right, so that's how that would work. All right, next up, let's go ahead and go to this guy where he's got teeth, and it's detecting the person. We select the person. We're going to go to his teeth and create a mask for that, and we would name it teeth. And we're just going to lower the saturation because there's a little yellowing happening on his teeth just to brighten his teeth up. We can even make them brighter. Not too bright. We can make them brighter. But that's how you, without the white strips you're buying from the drugstore, you could actually do it right here in Lightroom. Okay, next up. This is an image from my colleague, Katrine Eisman. And I noticed that this image, this is a great wall, by the way. I've been looking for an image like this. I can't find one. Like, this wall is perfect for demo purposes because it's got all kinds of things going on in it. Anyway, I could do the person stuff, but in this case, I'm going to switch over to my next new favorite tool, and that is the new Content Aware Remove tool. Now, the old spot healing brush, or healing brush that they call it in Lightroom, is still here. And the way this would work, if you clicked it or painted with it, it always goes and tries to find a spot to use. Sometimes, most times it guesses good. Sometimes it doesn't, and you'd have to pick it up and move it to a better spot. And this is time consuming. Like, I hate it doing this. So if I had a lot of this to do, I would just head over to Photoshop and do it because it's faster. Well, now I can delete this because I don't ever have to struggle with that again. There's a third tool, the Content Aware Remove tool that works just like the healing brush. So I can paint, and it just uses the surrounding pixels. I can click, it uses the surrounding pixels. I can get a big area like this, and it uses the surrounding pixels. It is so much faster and easier than having to use the spot healing brush from the past, and better results. So love, love, love that this is like, and what's also better about this than Photoshop is this is non-destructive. These little marks can all be changed or deleted. So if you remove something you didn't mean to remove, you can come back later and say, oh, I didn't mean to remove that, and delete the little mark, the little brush for it, and that item will come back because it's not really gone. It's just using the surrounding pixels to hide it. And now that they kind of open this funnel up of using surrounding pixels, I wonder if we'll ever get Content Aware Fill in Lightroom. That'd be nice. We'll see. But we do have the Content Aware Remove, and I'm happy with that in the meantime. All right. Now, while we're here, we're going to go to the third thing, which is, actually, let's do one more, and then we'll come back to this. Let's go to this one, and let's do another people thing. I just want to show what happens when you have more than one person. So go to masking. It's detecting people. It detects all three. Great. So you can click on any individual person. You can click on all the people. You can add a person to the selection. So if you want it just him and her and not him, or him and her and not him, you can add those people in. But anyway, we got the one person selected, and I want to go to her face skin, because if you look at her face skin, get out of this mask. Look at her face skin. It's brighter and not as warm as the other two people. So let's go to face skin, create mask, and just warm it up a little bit. So we'll go to temperature and just ever so slightly increase the temperature to make her face as warm as the guy next to her. And we can even bring down exposure because her face is super bright compared to his. Just a hair, just a touch. And that's how easy that is now with the new face masking. I know, right? The new Content Aware is fire. I agree. And yes, amazing. And you're welcome, David. All right, so let's go on and go back to that photo because I was going to show one more thing on this one. We're going to go to our third thing, which is the new object selection. So we can do people mask. We did the eraser, Content Aware eraser. But let's go to the new selection method, because before we had brush, linear gradient, radial gradient, and color range and luminosity range. Now we have a new category called objects. And so over a year ago, when they were working on the new masking from last year. I remember telling the product manager, oh my God, this is great. This is so awesome. It's going to change the way I use Lightroom. But I really wish it had the, to like take it to the next level. I really wish it had the object selection tool from Photoshop, the one we just saw earlier. And she kind of like, yeah, it's on the roadmap. We're thinking about it. And I was like, yeah. She's just trying to tell me to go away. Anyway, she was right. It was on the roadmap because it's here now. So if I click on objects and I want to select her dress to change the color, I can just start painting. I can make my brush bigger too, by the way. I'm just going to start painting in, and you can see how careful I'm being. I'm not being careful at all. I'm just kind of giving Lightroom an idea of what I want, and Lightroom selected it. That's it. It's been masked. So now if I change the color of a dress, I'm changing the color of a dress. Like, I wasn't in the lines. I didn't even finish painting the whole thing on the inside. I just gave it enough information to kind of say, oh, he wants the dress. Great, no problem. The dress is selected now. You can do whatever you want to the dress. Change the color, change the temperature, change the exposure, do whatever you want because the dress is now masked. This is a game changer, having this in Lightroom and Lightroom Classic. By the way, everything I'm showing you right now in Lightroom Classic be the same exact thing over in Lightroom. So I'm just not going to waste time going back and forth. You got it. If I'm showing it here, you can also do it in Lightroom. Okay. The one thing you can't, let's do one more. Let's do one more object thing. I did this one in my video, so let's do this one. We're going to go to, she's going to select the person, but we're going to go to objects. And she wanted a red Frisbee. So again, I'll see how little I can get away with. Let's just go around it like that. Let's see if that is enough. Yep, it's enough. So I'm now working with how little can I brush and it still figures out what I want. So I wanted the Frisbee because she whispered in my ear, the stock photo person, that she would love a red Frisbee instead. So I can change the Frisbee to more of a red color, drop the exposure down to make it really red. There we go. And now she's got a red Frisbee. So this is really going to make life so much easier and so just basically reducing the amount of trips we have to go to Photoshop for doing simple stuff like this. Use Photoshop for the more complex things that you want to do. All right, now that we got this in, yeah, I know, Christine, it's like so cool. What was I going to tell you next? All right, so let's go on and let's do another content aware remove. Here's Pixel, one of my new puppy. I was going to say one of my new puppy. I only have one new puppy, and Lisa, of course, our older puppy. And I'm going to go into the new content aware remove because Pixel hates his leash. Like he's like, I'm a young pup. I can run around all day long, and he can, but sometimes he needs a leash, but not in a photo. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint out his little tracker there, paint out the leash. And again, this is the new content aware remove. Just make sure I got enough of it and let go. And it uses the surrounding pixels. I would have never attempted that in Lightroom before. Now, I can see, like, I'm okay with that, but it looks like maybe I left a little bit or picked up some of that. So here's the thing. If you want to add to it, remember, there's one already there. So you can't really brush over it because there's one there. But you can always come outside of it just a little and brush again. And that will pick up that one little piece. So you can't brush over one that's there, but you can brush next to one into one that's there, and it will take care of it for you. All right, so that is, again, another example of content aware remove. I got one more here. This was a challenging one for me, or at least I thought it would be because of the brick wall. I want to get rid of this distraction behind her shoulder. I don't want to crop the photo. I just want to get rid of it. And I was like, oh my God, that brick wall is never going to come over properly because it's a pattern. And I said, let me try it. Worst case scenario, I hit undo. And I was impressed. Like, that's not 100% perfect, but it's really darn good. I could live with that. I can go maybe tweak a little bit more, but I'm okay with this result, especially the time it took, which was a couple seconds. All right, one more selection method, and that is the new background selection. Now, if you wanted to select the background before, you would simply say select subject and invert. So 2 steps minimum every single time you just wanted the background. Well, Lightroom team thought, why should you need to do 2 steps when you can just do it 1? So now they just gave you a background selection. Just click it, done. Click, background selected now. That's it. So much easier, so much faster than doing it twice. All right, so now we got the background selected. I'm going to add a little dehaze to the background, kind of bring him out more. And we'll go ahead and drop the exposure down to the background just a little bit more and make him stand out more. Just that fast, just that easy, just that non-destructively. Okay, so now that we got that, last but not least, if you wanted to take this stuff over to mobile, unfortunately, the only thing that made it onto the iOS devices, iPhone, iPad, is the Content Aware Remove tool, which is great to have on mobile. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy. But you didn't get all the people masking stuff. You didn't get the object selection stuff. You still don't have the object selection stuff. But the people selection stuff is just there. It's just under the hood. There's no UI for it. If you go to masking on your mobile device, you can just do select sky, select subject if your device is powerful enough. That's it. You don't see select people. You don't see any of that stuff. So let's go back and play a game. Let's go back to that very first image and let's reset it. Oh God, I hate her. I hate that green on her lips. Let's reset it. Let's give her back her natural color. And let's just do this. Let's click on people and let's go ahead and create just a hair mask. Create. And let's name it hair. And that's it. Now, because I made the mask, and I didn't even make any adjustments. I didn't change the color. I just made the mask. Now I can go make a preset. So if I go over here to presets and I click preset, click create new preset. And I'm going to call this one hair take 2 to coincide with the stream. This is the second version of the stream. I'm going to uncheck everything, check nothing, and just check the mask. So the only thing this preset does is a hair mask. That's it. So when I click create, that will make a new preset that all it does is select people's hair because it's an adaptive preset. Back in June, we got adaptive presets for select sky and select subject. Now we have adaptive presets for our selections of people. So if I go to a totally different person, one we haven't used yet, and I were to, it's detecting her because we're on the desktop, but if I were to go to my presets and I click hair take 2, and then I go to masking, because it's already created the mask, oh, it's already there. Her hair is selected. Totally different person, totally different hair, but because I have a preset called hair take 2, it will select the hair in every single person photo. Now, what you can't do is it will select, if there are 3 people, it's going to select all 3 people's hair. But you could paint that out. You can unmask, subtract from the selection the other 2 people you didn't want. That's great on desktop. But what about my iPad? Let's reset this. Let's get rid of her mask. Hello. Hi, sir, back. Let's go back to Lightroom on desktop. Now, Lightroom on desktop has the exact same features, but Lightroom on desktop has one more thing that makes it easier for working with mobile, because this is the same Lightroom that you have on your iPhone and iPad. So when you download Lightroom from your App Store, it's using much of the same interface and things that you get here. So if I make a preset in Lightroom desktop, not Lightroom Classic, but Lightroom, that preset will sync to my phone automatically. I don't have to do anything. It'll sync to my iPad automatically. I don't have to do anything. So, for example, if I come to this person, go to masking, I'm going to get rid of the mask that's already here. Let's delete it. And let's create a new mask. Oh, sorry, new mask. Yeah, I know I can do a tour. Let's click, yes, I know, got it. Let's go people. Oh, there we go, detecting people. And let's click her, and let's click her hair. And that will create a mask, right? Just like we did on Lightroom Classic. That's why I said it's the same. Now, we created a mask, we call it hair, but now I'm going to go over to presets. Let's get out of masking for a second, and let's go to presets. Oh, actually, we can go back to edit. There we go, presets. And I'm going to create a new preset. I've already got one here called masking 3.0, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to create a new preset called, same thing. We're going to get rid of all the, we're going to turn off everything else. Is there a select none? Nope. We're going to do a masking of just that hair mask. So just a preset called hair, just so we know the difference, take 3. So now we got a brand new one called hair take 3. Save the preset in my user presets. And in my user preset, there should be a hair take 3. There it is. Now, if I wait, it's syncing that right now. That's the little sync icon. And if I were to wait for it, it will eventually sync down to my iPad. But I already got one on my iPad to show you. So let's go in, switch over to the iPad, and let's go to a totally different person we haven't used yet. And let's go to presets, which is an icon, second one on the bottom, on the top right. Those are all the presets I already made. I made a preset for each new thing. I made one for body skin, eye sclera, eyebrows, face skin, hair, iris, pupil, lips. So that means that if I go in now and just tap hair, it will detect people. So it's looking for people in this shot. Then it will go ahead and do a mask. Now notice that some of the things are grayed out. Eye sclera, eyebrows, iris and pupil and lips are grayed out because you can't see those things. She's got her back to us. So it's smart enough to say, I'm not going to give you the ability to apply a mask to the things I can't see. So hair is selected. If I now say done, and I go to masking, there's her hair mask. And so now I could go into, for example, color, and use local hue and make my adjustment. And if it didn't get all the hair just right, go ahead and paint in a little bit more with a brush. That one little piece there at the bottom it didn't get. No problem. Paint it back in with a brush, add to the mask, away you go. Okay, so that is adaptive presets to get the people masking on your iPad or iPhone. It's not on Android quite yet, but I would expect them to probably add that since it's on one mobile platform. It should be probably on both. But in the meantime, if you need it on your mobile device, go ahead and create all the presets like I did, one for each one. And then you'll be able to use them on your mobile devices. So if I go back to presets, I get out of masking. I go to, there's my, I'm in my user presets. Let's go there. And there's hair take 3. So it's there. So it's synced it down already. And there's hair take 3 right here. And I could use that mask if I wanted to. So just go create them in Lightroom, not Lightroom Classic, because Lightroom Classic doesn't sync them automatically. There's a way to get them over to Lightroom, but why not just go ahead and create them in Lightroom on desktop, and then they'll sync automatically. So even if you don't use Lightroom desktop, but you use Lightroom on your phone, that would be the way to do it. All right, folks, hopefully you were able to watch all of this. I don't see any buffering issues or complaints, so I think we got it. And I want to say cheers. Thanks for hanging in there with me. And I got to do this twice. Hopefully it was better the second time. All right, and this way it's good for the recording for anyone that needs to watch it later. They'll now have it to watch on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. It should be on all my platforms. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. We'll catch you on the next one. Stay tuned for now. You're welcome. You're welcome, Kevin Stewart. You're welcome, Christine. You're welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, cheers, everybody. Bye.